トカーナンバーは7、スノークラスです。こちらはゴーテックスオリオンレンジラスからエントリー。カオレンルオ、そしてベンジャミン・ルーテ組。7番組のカーナンバーは78、アマンクラスです。ルーティションズボーナスボースライダーからエントリー。こちらは1人体制です。7番組、ルンチャロレン。8番組のこちらはフロークラスです。カーナンバーは16。今季初オーディエということになりました。マキシミアのワイザーを通します。シュエティ・シュー、そしてマックス・ワイザーです。続いて9番組のカーナンバーは91、アマンクラスです。ロイドレースレーシング、ヘンリー・ジェイ、エリック・ジェイ組。10番組のカーナンバーは33、アマンクラスです。イアン・シェンクロー、そしてアール・ダーウィン組、アイロン・ピックスからのエントリーです。11番組のカーナンバーは71です。こちらはランドキーカップクラスのいわゆるゴールシューターということになります。サイドラスゴールセからエントリー。サハナイダーウィン・モーというエントリーです。白い体制です。続いて77番、77号は10番組のカスタード。こちらはフロアクラスになります。セリフハウスからのエントリー。レイヤー・キー、そしてニコラシールです。13番組のカーナンバーは37です。1位体制なんですが、こちらアイロンピックスからのエントリー。こちらは1人体制です。ランボルギーカップクラスクマール・ブラワー。そして14番組からスタートをしていきますのランボルギーカップクラスです。こちらはカーナンバー5 HGO ホーメスレーシングチームからのエントリーです。ハイリー・ジャイレオ、そしてハキム・ジャイレオ、こちらはバレンシア人の兄弟ということになります。続いて15番組はカーナンバー11です。こちらはアート、息子さんで組んでいます。オブジェクティブレーシングからエントリー。トッキーボールズ、そしてジャクソンボールズ組。ジャクソンボールズは今シーズンですね、このランボルギーニスーパーゴールドのジュニアプログラムというか、ステップアッププログラムのドライバーに選出されました。続いて16番組からスタートするのはカーナンバー18です。アマクラス、TRPS、ライドンカー、そしてレイクユー組。17番組はカーナンバー51、アマクラスです。レーションカー、そしてヴィンセントタイ組、DC レーシング。そしてその後ろ、17番ゼッケンをつけていくのは、ウィンドウシェア18番組からスタートをしていきます。
Hello and welcome to Fuji International Speedway in beautiful Japan for a return for Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia. The first time in almost exactly 4 years we were here at this iconic circuit. This is the third round of the 2023 season as we get set for two 50-minute races across this Super Formula weekend here at Fuji Speedway. Temperatures in the low 30s, humidity is quite high, as most people that know this region understand only too well. The beautiful Mount Fuji only appears every now and then, and we've seen it a couple of times during the course of this weekend, but has been very, very patchy so far as cloud coming in. Not too much rain, a little bit of light drizzle. That did affect things during the opening qualifying session, and some of the drivers also explaining that perhaps the Super Formula sessions just immediately beforehand on a slightly different tyre to the Cook rubber that these Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeos compete on had changed the track surface. A little bit slippery, so we saw times just a fraction down on what we may well have expected. But of course, this is the Evo 2 version of the Huracan Super Trofeo, and it gets set for its first run. You can see that the time board is just about to show a minute to go before we circulate behind the Urus pace car, and we will be set for a rolling start. Qualifying earlier today, two 15-minute sessions, a 10-minute gap in between those two sessions, and pole position was taken, perhaps not surprisingly, by the reigning Lamborghini Super Trofeo Pro Series champion, and that is Chris van der Drift. Very successful in various forms of GT competition and one-make competition most especially, and he set pole position for the Absolute Racing Run number 84 Pro entry that he will share with young New Zealand compatriot Marco Giltrap. 141.1, he set that lap on the final flying lap in that 15-minute session, and despite his best efforts, Daniel Wells, who's another driver with an awful lot of experience in these cars and on this circuit, came across the line in position number 2 for the new look DW Evans GT Racing team, 141.2, so a tenth of a second separating those two teams. Jonathan Cecotto, the star of round 2 of the championship at the bend, Motorsport Park in Australia. He sets position number 3 with a 1:41.3. So just over a quarter of a second separated the top 3 drivers in this field. He, of course, is sharing with Zhang Li in the number 10 Pro-Am entry. The number 19 start performance by Absolute, all Thai team of Anuat and Promsombat. Set position number 4, of course, AM entry, a 1:42.0. And position number 5, Chang Woo Liu and John Kwon, Brian Lee rather, and John Kwon. The South Korean team have been very, very impressive, and they can't wait for their home event in about a month's time that has just been rescheduled to the Inje circuit, not too far south of the North Korean border. It's going to be a new circuit for a number of these teams, but certainly not for the 2 impressive South Korean drivers. Position number 6, Benjamin Rouget, who returns alongside Hao Wen Liu in the Vortex Orion Endurance entry. They missed the last round due to commitments elsewhere in the world. Bobby Buncheron in position number 7, the Thai driver, very, very impressive. He is just carded one of his best qualifying positions, and that puts him 3rd in the AM category. Position number 8 is Chengwei Zhu, sharing with Max Visa, a 2-time champion in Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia, making his return after 2 years away from the wheel. The Kay brothers, Henry Kay and Eric Kay. Eric's at the time in position number 9. Position 10 is Lian Shen Lo, sharing with Mark Darwin in the number 33 Iron Lynx Racing entry. Position number 11, Super Chai, the Thai driver from Weiliang Ni, who's sharing with Miko Nassi. He will start from position number 12 and 4th in Pro-Am. Kumar Prabhakaran is in position number 13. He was 2nd fastest of the LC entries. Of course, I'll just put my teeth back in. Lian Shen Lo set that time, position number 10 and the number 33 entry. Kumar in position 13, we're just talking about. Harry O and Haziko in position number 14. The Pro-Am entry of Tony Walls and son Jackson Walls in position number 15. Zhilong Kang and Ray Liu in position 16. Johnson Huang and Vincent Tai in 17. Gavin Huang, his son, alongside David Rio, as they get set for a start in position number 18. We are not too far off getting underway. 1.5 kilometre main straight here on this 4.563 kilometre 16 turn Fuji International Speedway as the drivers get set for a rolling start. We saw a bit of an issue last time round for Jonathan Cecotto. There he is right under the rear wing of Chris van der Drift for the start. He's not going to get this one wrong. It cost him an almost perfect weekend in Australia as we get underway for Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Series, round 3, race number 1, and we are go. Green lights as we race down to turn 1. Keep a close eye on that car on left of screen. That is Chris van der Drift. Right of screen, Dan Wells looking for the outside. Lights ablaze in that yellow entry in position 3 as Dan Wells has just gone a little bit wide into turn 1. That's opened the door. He's gone down the grass to rejoin, just to take that position back from Jonathan Cecotto. Good start from Chris van der Drift as Cecotto dives to the inside. What a sleeper that was. He's got to be very careful not to run too wide. We saw a number of drivers falling foul of the track limits rule, and especially on turn 6. So that will be something that they will need to keep an eye on as Cecotto has carried on that form that served him so well in Australia. What a great start for the young Venezuelan driver. Of course, the son of 2-time motorcycle world champion Johnny Cecotto, a driver who also turned a lot of laps in touring cars, GT cars, and of course in Formula One. But it is the experienced head of Chris van der Drift who could do nothing about the pace of Cecotto in Australia as they nip down to the chicane. What can he do this time around? Of course, we've got a compulsory pit stop between minutes 20 and 30 of this race. A minimum pit stop time for both a single driver entry and dual driver entries. It goes to the advantage of the dual driver entries by 3 seconds. We'll get to that as we start to see some more times come up on our timing monitor. So it's van der Drift, Wells, Cecotto from Sombat, Brian Lee for the SQDA Grit Motorsports South Korean entry in position number 6, Benjamin Rouget in 7. Bobby Buncheron, Sunil Buncheron in the True Visions Motorsport Thailand entry, maintains 2nd or 3rd now he is overall in the AM category and 7th outright. Chengwei Zhu in the Harmony Racing entry, he shares with Max Visa, he's in position number 8. Eric Kay in position number 9, in position number 10 for Mark Darwin in the number 33 orange entry from Iron Lynx. Jun Chashiro, who is a guest entry this weekend. The local team, of course, not competing in the championship. He's moved up to position number 11 and he's moving his way forward. Just disappeared out of screen as rear field. Dr. Ma in the Cam Lung Racing entry he shares with Keith Fong. He's been instructed to just keep the pack within sight. And Keith, who was fastest in the LC Cup entry in the second qualifying session, will do his bit in the second half of this race to try and haul the field in. Now Dan Wells is giving a little bit back to the young Venezuelan driver. Can he take the position back? Of course, Cecotto has the inside, side by side. Wells is being very racy, very impressive from Oscar Lee during practice yesterday. He got to within 4/10, so I don't think they're going to go side by side through the chicane. Dan Wells is up to that. We'll try the crossover to get back to the inside, but I think Cecotto's all over that and closes the door on the exit. But as Wells got the run now, of course the next corner is going to be a left-hander. He's holding him out wide. He might have just got it. Tries to squeeze him to the inside. A little bit of contact, and Cecotto has just managed to get back up the inside. What's going to be like down the main straight? These cars are turning just on 280 kilometres per hour at the end of the main straight as they jump hard onto the brakes in that off-camber right-handed first turn. Not a lot of runoff there, as a few of the drivers have found, enough to be able to correct a little error, but you don't want to be carrying too much speed into that first turn, especially here at the end of this very, very long straight at Fuji International Speedway. So Vanderdrift out now by 2.5 seconds. That's what has cost these guys by fighting over position, and Dan Wells is all over that. He knows exactly what's going on. He needs to get past Cecotto, and he tries again, just nips in under the rear wing from Sombat, who's doing such a great job in that number 19 entry by Absolute Racing. Just hangs back there in position number 4, and Brian Lee in the SQDA Grit Motorsport, the South Korean entry. They hadn't done any competition outside of their home country up until the first round at Sepang, and surprised everybody to be right on the pace. In fact, qualified in the top 10, I think, on both occasions. No, in fact, qualified 6th and 2nd in their 2 first qualifying sessions as part of Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia, and finished in positions 2 before a DNF in a little bit challenging conditions during the second race at Malaysia at Sepang. What have they done about this gap? Marginally closed it down to Chris Vanderdrift, but he also understands that certainly in the case of Cecotto, his co-driver is not going to be quite up to the same speed as he is. As we look at the restart, left of screen, Chris Vanderdrift, right of screen is Dan Wells. Take a look at the car immediately behind Vanderdrift. He was right under his rear wing as they came to the line, but Vanderdrift got the jump. Cecotto thought about a move down the inside, and Prom Sombat there in that Dayglow yellow car, black and red, just behind Dan Wells in the new look DW Evans GT entry. Good start there by Brian Lee. Purple, black and light blue entry. And Benjamin Rouget looking to see what he can do in the number 7 entry for Vortex Orion Endurance on their return. And there was this great move by Cecotto. You don't get one past on Dan Wells very often, and Wells got a little bit of a surprise on that front and just lost that position. Now he's doing absolutely everything he can to try and get himself back up to speed. That is the guest entry. The second car in line there, Eric Kay in the number 91 entry, holding down position number 8, the Triple Ace Racing team. And it looks like Jun Tashiro has just managed to get the crossover on Eric Kay and take that position away. And Eric's done a great job, driver from Hong Kong. He's done a fair bit of one-make GT competition in recent years. Is very comfortable in the Evo 2. As you can see just ahead of them, that is Bobby Buncheron. There is your race leader. The gap now 2.38 seconds. So now the two of them behind, whether Wells has decided that he's not going to push the point because they lost more than 2 seconds in that little exchange earlier, just a lap ago, and that allowed Chris Vanderdrift to open up a fairly handy margin. Now, last time round, Vanderdrift turned in a 42.45, and it was a 42.3 for Cecotto, so he's just managed to open up a fraction of a gap. It's out to half a second now to Dan Wells. From Sombat is back another 1.2 seconds. Brian Lee in position number 5 of 6 tenths further back, although he's just dropped off a little bit there. He's back 8 tenths, 2 seconds further back to Benjamin Rouget. almost 5 seconds back to Bobby Buncheron in the number 78 True Visions entry. Eric Kay another 3 seconds further back, and we saw, well, position change now. Jun Toshiro will take over position number 8. Eric Kay will drop back to position number 9. Cheng Wei Zhu, who is in the Harmony Racing entry, shares with Max Visa, is in position number 10. Mark Darwin is in position number 11. I just need to check that. I had a funny feeling that it was Lian Shay Low who started that car. It certainly is. So the timing's just slightly awry on that front, unless there's been a late change, but driver nominations certainly showed differently. Superchai is leading in the number 71 All Orange LC Cup entry. This is for Siam Gas course. Immediately behind him is Kumar Prabhakaran for Iron Links. Oh, there's that's the 33 entry we're just talking about. So that is a spin by the looks at the exit of turn 1. We're just talking about runoff there. So he may have gone in just a little bit deep. Max Visa was saying to me this morning, this looks like it could be a replay. Keep a look at the middle of the screen. He's gone in, got to the apex and just lost the tail of the car. Now Max Visa was telling me something that was interesting, just with the handling of the Huracan Evo 2. He said it's very direct. Once the tail gets away, you really need to snap it back into shape and give it a little bit of throttle to just drive it back into line. He said that's a lot easier for an experienced driver, and you'll find that with the lesser experienced drivers that can tend to catch them out. And one of the places he did point that it may be a bit of an issue is on the exit of turn 1, and we saw that just that time round with Lian Shay Low. Your race leader, Chris Vanderdrift, just holding station, a 1:42.1 for Chris Vanderdrift that time round. 2.38 seconds the lead from Jonathan Chicotto with a 1:42.1. Dan Wells with a 1:42.1. From Sombat next back with a 1:43.3. So your class leaders as they stand. Chris Vanderdrift leads the pro category. Jonathan Chicotto leads the pro-am category. From Sombat in position 4 leads the am category. And for the Lamborghini Cup, Superchai back, well, he's now up to position number 11. Of course, the 33 entry is dropping right back down the order. Doesn't tend to suggest, now I think I can see him top of screen, so he hasn't gone down pit lane. Here's a passing move a little bit further forward. That is the 51 entry of Johnson Huang, unless I'm mistaken. Yes, and he made a move there on Kumar in the second placed Lamborghini Cup entry. He now has the third placed Lamborghini Cup entry of Haziq O immediately behind him. The HZO Fortis Racing Team entry, that lime green and grey entry, the number 5 car. And immediately behind Haziq is Wei Lang Ni in the Safe House entry that he shares with Miko Nasi. Now they've changed teams in the interim between the Bend Motorsport Park and here at Fuji Speedway, and just settling into that new ride. Of course, there are no slouches behind the wheel of that car. They've had a quite reasonable start to the championship. In fact, if I take a quick look back through the specs on how the team have done, they qualified inside the top 10 for both races at Sepang, finished 14th and 5th, and qualified 8th and 12th in Australia, and finished just around both ends of the top 10, 9th and 11th. So it will be good to see them move a little bit further back up the order. Of course, they are an AM entry. No, in fact, they're a pro-AM entry, the Safe House number 77. It's a big gaggle of cars here. There's Tony Walls in the number 11 Objective Racing entry, the Australian father and son team of Jackson Walls and Tony Walls. As this battle for LC Cup honours goes on, well, in fact, no, it doesn't. That's a little bit further ahead. That is a battle for position. Malaysian teams effectively. Miko Nasi is based in that area. And the 77 side by side with the 5 on the run down to turn 1. They have the inside run, so that is likely a change for position. Now there's been an improvement up front. 1:41.8 last time round for Chris Vanderdrift and 42.2s for both Chicotto and Wells. So the lead out to 2.7 seconds is now Tony Walls looks to try and move past Haziq O. He's on the wrong side, Australian driver. Of course, Jackson Walls, he is part of the 2023 Super Trofeo New Drivers Program alongside Marco Giltrap and Xu Sheng Wei. Those three young drivers will compete throughout the season and go into the end-of-year shootout at Vallelunga, which is also the final round of the Asian Championships, final round of European and North American, as it turns out. There's a battle further forward. This is for position. Promsombat now under fire from the fellow AM class entry of Brian Lee. Two cars, very different liveries, very easy to distinguish. But Brian Lee pronounced himself very, very comfortable. He did a very good job on debut at Sepang in Malaysia. Although on that front, number 63 entry, it was John Quan who perhaps stood out amongst the two drivers. I mean, again, they were running in the top three for much of that weekend. Really made a very smart choice during the opening race, which suffered a torrential downpour and set us back 45 minutes before the start. That was down to tyre choice, and whilst many teams elected to stay with the safe option and wet tyres, they went on to slick tyres and battled through the opening laps. By the closing laps, really stormed through the field to finish on the podium. And whilst Brian Lee was suggesting that maybe they were lucky at the first round, I don't think you come into 3 rounds lucky. They're running in position number 5, looking to make a position change through to position number 4. That's not luck. That is some very, very good driving. So for two drivers who've done all their competition in South Korea to venture into this Asian Championship, well, they're very happy. But then you look up and down the field and most of the drivers, oh, that was very close. Brian Lee deep under brakes. And I think Promsombat just pulling the number 19 entry up caught him short, and all that ground he just made up, he's lost again. He's going to have to do that all over again. So Vanderdrift, Chicotto, Wells, Promsombat, Brian Lee, Benjamin Rouget. Tashiro is up to position number 7 in the guest entry for Promotion Racing. Bobby Buncheron back to position 8. Eric Kay is in position 9. And Sheng Wei Zhu, the new junior driver for Lamborghini Super Trofeo, in position number 10. Super Chai in 11. Johnson Huang in position 12. Wei Liang Ni in position 13 for Safe House Racing. Position 14, Kumar. Haziq O in position 15. Tony Walls in position number 16. Gavin Huang in position number 17. Jilong Kang in position number 18. Mark Darwin back to position number 19. Again, I expect that is Lin Shou. I'm going to have to get this one right. Lian Shen Lo back in position 19. That Iron Links entry we saw spin at turn 1. And Dr. Ma in position number 20. And he has dropped off the pack, so Keith Vong will have a little bit of work to do. And he's, well, there's the 33 entry around again. It's a different part of the circuit. See if we can work out where that is. That may be at turn 14, perhaps. And he's just about to drive up onto the main straight. So another spin. That's 2 spins now for the number 33 entry, as the race leader doing a very nice job at the front of the field. 3.1 seconds now to Chris Vanderdrift. And one thing we have seen with these control Hankook tyres, the C54 medium compound, very durable. Pace-wise, as we can see from the fact that these guys are running almost identical pace to what they were doing with a different tyre manufacturer back in 2019, there's not too much drop-off on pace. Of course, the car is different. That was the Evo 1. This is the Evo 2. But pace-wise, performance-wise, there isn't a huge gap to the original model. So certainly the job these guys are doing is fantastic. But the one thing we did see through qualifying is it does take a couple of laps to come on. We are up to lap number 9. Vanderdrift has just crossed the line again. The drivers behind him have gone quicker in that last lap. No, they haven't, as I just checked. No, sorry, they have. It was a 42.7 for Vanderdrift, 42.5 and a 42.9. Now, Dan Wells has dropped to 1.2 seconds back behind Chicotto. He may have decided that he can only do so much. He will hand over to Oscar Lee, who on pace should be much quicker than Chung Lee. As we look further back to Haziq O, still holding position, and his rival in Lamborghini Cup, Kumar Prabhakaran for Iron Links, is immediately in front of him. But the leader of the class, Super Chai, is up, well, let's just check. He's certainly 4 or 5 seconds further in front of them. So they're going to have to get a bit of a move on before the pit start. Tony Walls back behind down in 16. Jackson Walls was saying Tony's getting comfortable. Of course, certainly a gentleman driver in the respect of the word, but has done a lot of GT competition in Australia. Has been out of the seat for a while, as a number of drivers have, of course, with the worldwide pandemic, but has been getting more and more comfortable. His pace here has been quite good. Jackson Walls was saying he's about half a second off where they'd like him in the window, but he has been improving. They were a little bit further forward, but Tony currently in position number 16. Now the pit stop window will open in, look at the, we've been running for, well, it should open in 2 minutes time, or just over 2 minutes time, and you will see a number of these combinations where the pro driver hasn't started. That's gone very deep. So that is Kumar in the 37 entry has run too deep down. That he's doing. He's certainly protecting his line. He may have just squeezed Hazico just a little much on the exit of the corner, but he has retained position 2 in Lamborghini Cup, but he went a little bit too deep down at the chicane at turn 10-11, and that opened the door for Hazico just to have a little bit of a look, but that door was firmly closed in his face as Kumar regained form. So for the single driver entries, Kumar, of course, is one of those. There are 3. Bobby Buncheron is another, and Super Chai. They can stop whenever they want to stop, whenever they feel comfortable, but certainly for the drivers with a Pro-Am combination, you will likely see the AM in as soon as that pit window opens, and that could be as early as the next lap. Well, it might be a little bit tight given their pace at the moment. It may well be 2 laps from now. We will see the drivers start to pit, although some of those further back in the field will likely have the window open. Now, we did talk about track limits. There's a couple of warnings at the moment. So the number 63 entry, that is Dr. Ma. Oh, sorry, no, it's not Dr. Ma. That is, in fact, Brian Lee up in position number 5. He's on his second warning for track limits. The number 11 entry, if I'm not mistaken, that is Tony Walls. It is, in fact, in the objective entry. He's on his first warning for track limits. So you need to keep a close eye on that. For a number of drivers, there has been an issue. Well, I said turn 6. I have a funny feeling turn 3 has been more particular. And there have been some at the final corner too on the exit. So they just need to be more. Oh, there's been some contact. There looks like an incident down there. That's the number 5 entry of Hazico. Now, we're just talking about that part of the circuit. That's heading down to turn 4 by the looks of it. And was that the guest entry of Junta Shiro? It looks like it may well be. No, it's not. That I know which entry that one is. I just need to double check and make sure that nobody is injured. That is the entry of Ray Liu, and they suffered a setback whilst in a very, very strong position. So that should be Zhilong Kang behind the wheel. So this could be a red flag. It's certainly a safety car intervention as they get down there and just check that the drivers are okay. We hope everybody is okay. See whether or not we find a replay on exactly what happened. Now, I'm not sure on my rules. I'll need to double check that. But with the safety car out, does the pit window open? Because certainly we saw a car coming down pit lane. Now, there's 2 drivers, it appears, walking away. I'm assuming there are only 2 drivers there. That is the second placed car in Lamborghini Cup and the championship points leader, Kumar Prabhakaran, coming into pit lane for Iron Lynx as Chris Vanderdrift storms out of the final corner. So it is saying that the pit window is open. So Kumar has served his minimum stop. Now, for a single driver entry, for which he is one, he needs to stop for 92 seconds. I'm not sure whether that was a 92-second stop. We'll soon find out, because we are being updated with any rule incursions. Vanderdrift. Well, look at what's happened there. He had a 3-second lead. It's now down to half a car length to Jonathan Giacotto as they hit pit lane. A single car length back to Dan Wells. So somewhere along the line, somebody has slowed significantly, and perhaps someone else may not have. We need to be very careful on some of those things. We've seen that the stewards are quite happy to issue post-race warnings, but these teams are very, very experienced, so they will understand that, as will the drivers. But let's see what the outcome is of this. All of those teams that we were just talking about, the top 3, are 2 driver entries. They must stop for a minimum of 89 seconds. The single driver entries stop for a minimum of 92 seconds. There's a 3-second difference. Part of that is to do with the fact that the driver incumbent in the car is not getting out, is comfortable, is set, is ready to go. So they conceivably can fire out a pit lane a little bit quicker, as opposed to certainly some of the AM drivers who will take a little while just to get themselves up to speed. So safety car is out on track. Let's see who it picks up. The 33 entry is heading out. I'm assuming that Mark Darwin will be behind the wheel. Now, it's likely with a couple of spins that car could well be a lap down. So this isn't necessarily for position. Marco Giltrap, I would suggest, in the number 84 entry for Absolute Racing, and Lamborghini Auckland, and the Giltrap group, of course, would be your race leader. It is suggesting that Chung Lee has taken over in the number 10 entry started by Jonathan Cecotto. In position number 2, Oscar Lee now in the DW Evans GT entry. So expect it to be Oscar Lee taking the fight to Marco Giltrap. Giltrap on pace, the young New Zealander, very experienced in certainly in one make GT competition, has been doing a fair bit of it in his home country in New Zealand, also in Australia. He's been very competitive and very successful. And Chris Vanderdrift was saying he just needs miles around here, but he's not too far off my pace. So that's exactly what we want to see. Now, the number 99 entry of Jun Toshiro is shown as the race leader, but that could be that he may well not have stopped. He will be pitting at some point to hand over to Shunsuke Kono, a driver with GT300 Super GT experience, certainly on this circuit. I'd imagine he'd done a lot more than Super GT around here. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform, but they may need to do a pit stop. And if you pit stop now, unfortunately, you will be out of sequence, and you're quite likely going to run from the front of the field to the rear of the field, depending on how far ahead of the safety car he is, of course. At the moment, it's suggesting he was 14 seconds up as they got to the timing line. I can certainly hear a Lamborghini out circulating, pulling gears, so it could be that he's going to come out with a mile-long lead. It's not something we want to see. The damage to the rear of the car doesn't look too bad, but they do need to remove it from the circuit, so it looks like we're going to have a little bit more of a delay. So just under 26 minutes left in this race. The drivers look like they're okay. I'll certainly be very, very disappointed. That's not the way you want to finish the race. And contact down at that part of the circuit quite fast, flowing through turn 3, the old Coca-Cola corner, into the fast turn 4 right-hander. You'd be carrying plenty of pace firing down the hill from turn 1. So it wouldn't have been an insignificant impact, but it looks like neither car has potentially hit the barriers, which is good news. But the fact that they've made contact themselves is not good news. See how the order goes on the restart, but what you're seeing on screen isn't the necessary order. Look to cars 3 and 4. That is Keith Vong, who has won here in the past in certainly in GTC competition in GT Asia back in the good old days, going back about 8-9 years now. So he has done miles around this circuit before, and he was the fastest qualifier in the Lamborghini Cup for the second session. Of course, we will see race number 2, the second 50-minute race, and the 6th race of the season tomorrow morning at 11:35 a.m. So let's go back through as we stand now. It's not. It's a little bit confused at the moment. We will see this reorganised shortly, but I think I might run from Marco Giltrap, who's shown in position number 4 behind Shunsuke Kono, Bobby Buncheron and Henry Kay. As we get down to that incident again, that's not really being cleared away particularly quickly. They must be in an awkward position. There are cars down there for recovery, but this could be a couple of laps we've lost here. But it's Marco Giltrap effectively leading the race from Chung Lee, Oscar Lee, Brian Lee, he will have changed over to John Kwan in the number 63 SQDA Grit Motorsport entry, and that is 7th outright as it stands. Annie Watt's taken over the number 19 entry. Awen Liu in the Vortex Orion Endurance entry. They're in position number 9. I would suggest in perhaps position number 5. Position 6, Max Visa taken over in the Harmony Racing entry. Keep a close eye on the pro driver. Very experienced campaigner in the Lamborghini. Has been a driver coach. Is running a circuit in northern Italy, not far from Turin at the moment, and doubling as a driver coach for a number of drivers. In fact, a number of drivers from China. So he's very excited about that, but a big part of Lamborghini Super Trofeo over many years. He's shown his position 10 outright, but that should be potentially position 7 on track and second in the pro category. Vincent Tai in the BC Racing entry shares with Johnson Huang is in position 11. Jackson Walls taken over from his father Tony in position number 10 or 9, however you want to look at it. Wei Liang Ni in the entry number 77. That will be Miko Nassi now. So the timing board hasn't quite updated. Super Chai, of course, running on his own, leading Lamborghini Cup in position 14 overall. David Rio in the Racecraft entry in position number 15. Kumar in position number 16, second in Lamborghini Cup. Mark Darwin having taken over that dual spinning number 33 Iron Lynx entry. Dr. Ma, that's now Keith Vong in the number 83 entry, third in Lamborghini Cup. Zico, well, that should have been handed over to Harry O, his brother, in the number 5 entry in position 19, and Zhilong Kang in position number 20. And of course, Zico hasn't handed over to his brother because it is one of the 2 cars that is sitting at the edge of the fence there down on the exit of turn 3. So that will be 2 cars out of this 20-car field as things stand. It's been a good consistent number right through the season so far. A few guest drives, or one-off drives rather, in the championship so far. But if you look at positions on screen, despite the fact it's suggesting Kono's leading from Henry Kay and Bobby Buncheron, they are further back down the order. It's in fact Mark Darwin leading in the 33 entry from Keith Vong in the 83 Camelong Racing entry, and then it is the effective race leader, or very soon would be if we were restarting, Marco Giltrap, the young New Zealander that shares with Chris Vanderdrift, the reigning pro class champion in this series. Of course, we started at Malaysia in early May. We went on to the Ben Motorsport Park at South Australia, the first visit for Lamborghini Super Trofeo into Australia on the 9th to the 11th of June. We're here at Fuji in Japan. We're off to Inje Speedium in South Korea on the 18th to the 20th of August before returning to Shanghai in China in early September, and then we go into the World Final, which traditionally has been held in the home country of Lamborghini. Of course, that is Italy, and Vallelunga will host the final round of the 3 regional championships on the 16th to 17th of November, and immediately following that next weekend on the 18th and 19th of November will be the World Final, which will feature all the class champions and a number of drivers from each of the fields. So that will be a very, very interesting final for this series. And we have had a number of years of Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Of course, there have been various models. This is the Evo 2 of the Huracan Super Trofeo. And the series, of course, started back at Sepang in Malaysia in 2012. Up until the start of this season, there have been 254 drivers compete in Lamborghini Super Trofeo from 30 nations, competing in 96 races on 18 different circuits. So it is a very much entrenched part of the Asian motorsports scene, and fantastic after a 3-year sabbatical. Thank you, COVID. To have the championship back in action, and there's a lot of happy drivers that has happened. And whilst there are 4 classes of competition, the Pro, the Pro-Am, the Am, the Lamborghini Cup, we also have this weekend for the very first time the Hankook Fastest Lap Award. Now if I look at the fastest lap so far in this race, well, 42.1s, 41.9, 41.8, 41.843. That would be Chris Vanderdrift. So he may well find himself the recipient of the very first Hankook Fastest Lap Award that will be offered for every race across the remainder of this season. Of course, the Hankook Control tyre, the C54 compound, a medium compound tyre, works fantastically well with the Lamborghini. Now, whilst it might look similar to the Lamborghini GT3, there are a number of differences, mostly aerodynamics, and you can see that for those aficionados of GT competition. Performance-wise isn't too far off. We look at the qualifying time. Chris Vanderdrift of 141.1 when GT World Challenge Asia was here just a month ago. The GT3 Lamborghini competing in the championship set a 139.7 during qualifying. So it's about 1.3 seconds, 1.4 seconds if my math is correct. So my father will be having words with me if I get that wrong. Oh, this is going to be quite a lengthy recovery. So that car quite clearly can't be towed. That's Haziq O's and Harry O's entry, the number 5 entry, the HZO Fortis Racing Team entry, prepared by Absolute Racing. That's going to be some hectic work for the team when we get that car back to the pits. We have only until 11:35 a.m. tomorrow morning. And perhaps not the best way to have lifted it, considering what damage appears to be done to the driveline at the back. But how else are you going to get the car onto the recovery vehicle? That's a tough finish. Now, the damage to the rear doesn't look hugely significant, because the bodywork's hanging off. Certainly the way they've put the vehicle onto the trailer hasn't helped some of that by the looks of it. There's no major damage we can see on this side unless we're missing something on the left, but the drivers appear to have gotten out of the car. Now I'm hoping we'll see the safety car lights off the magnificent bright orange Lamborghini safety car, and we will be able to go racing again, get the remainder of this race underway. It will also allow us to just confirm, well, the pit window is quite clearly closed, but pit lane is also closed. It will allow us to then allow the timing board to recover somewhat, like the rest of us, and we will be able to give you a little bit more accurate indication of exactly where people sit for position. But I would be suggesting in the pro category, Marco Giltrap is leading. Chung Lee, sharing with Jonathan Chicotto, would be leading in Pro-Am. Brian Lee and John Kwon in the SQDA Grit Motorsport, the South Korean entry, is leading the AM category, and Lamborghini Cup Superchai in the Siam Gas Course entry, number 71 all orange entry, is leading Lamborghini Cup. Again, fastest lap appears to be in the hands at the moment of Chris Vanderdrift with a 141.84. Keep a close eye on Max Visa, the Italian driver, now behind the wheel of the number 16 Harmony Racing entry. That car sat on pole position for race 2 of the season at Sepang in Malaysia. David Chen, an AM category driver. He isn't really. He turned up in another one-make championship many years ago as an AM driver and very near won his first race. So he's a very experienced campaigner. We have seen a change in the race order. So we now have Giltrap leading the field, despite the fact the timing monitor is still suggesting that Kono and the number 99 Promotion Racing, the guest entry, is leading the field. But that will be just due to the safety car intervention and where it came out in the field. We don't have an indication yet that lights are off. I can't quite see the safety car, but you can assess for yourself. That seems to be the world standard. Lights off. We go racing next time round. There's Keith Vong at rear of field. There is the unfortunate HZO Fortis Racing Team entry, returning to pit lane, not the way we wanted to see it doing so. The lights are still on the safety car. There will be a point any time now, I think, when the lights will go off, I would hope. Anyway, it's likely to return to pit lane, and it's a long way down this main straight. And we can go racing again with just under 15 minutes left in this opening race. Not the first time we've seen a safety car so far this year. We had 2 of them during the second race in Australia, in fact the first race in Australia rather, and ultimately that had a big impact on the overall race positions. So as the safety car disappears off into the distance, the race is controlled by the young Kiwi, Marco Giltrap. He's in a fairly comfortable position. Immediately behind him is Chung Lee, another fellow junior driver for Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Oscar Lee back in position number 3. John Kwon in position number 4. Aniwat in the number 19 AM Series entry. It is the other yellow, red and black entry, back in position number 5. Hao Wen Liu for Vortex Orion Endurance, that all dark blue entry, a navy blue entry, and immediately under his rear wing is Max Visa. And my tip would be, over the next 13 minutes, that's the car you want to be keeping a very close eye on. Also keep an eye on the Objective Racing entry, the number 11 entry of Jackson Walls. What will Giltrap do? How long will he hold him up? You'll no doubt have the team and perhaps Chris Vanderdrift in his ear, just giving him a tip on when to go, and he's gone. He's away. He hasn't opened up too much of a gap, but certainly he's just got the jump on Zhang Li, and we are back underway with just under 13 minutes left in this race. We'll get an update on the timing monitor. No, the other cars are still in front of them somewhere on the track. That will sort itself out fairly shortly, but it's Marco Giltrap, Zhang Li, Oscar Lee looking to go around the outside. That won't work, and he's gone too wide, and he's opened the door for John Quan to go up the inside and take that position away. So Oscar Lee's got a little bit of work to do. He's back on the inside into turn 3, but no, John Quan's closed the door. Now Oscar Lee needs to be very careful that Aniwat immediately behind him doesn't take that position away and drop him further back down the order. They need to keep this competition going. The Pro-Am combination that has been so successful, won every race so far this year. Oscar Lee and Dan Wells, as there is the driver I was talking about. He's already moved forward. And the other driver I was talking about is immediately under his rear wing. Jackson Walls has got the bit between the teeth. But how about Max Visa, the pole sitter earlier today for race 2 tomorrow, is now John Quan goes up the inside of the number 10 entry of Zhang Li and gone too deep. Now it's 3 wide. It's going absolutely crazy now. Oh, turn him around. Max Visa's just tagged the back of Oscar Lee. Oscar Lee got caught up in position, just trying to find his place after that deep run into the chicane. That just upset the order as Jackson Walls has got ahead of Max Visa now. Visa's fired up the inside, but he's just going to be in the wrong spot now for the right-hander onto the main straight. Jackson Walls won't want to give that position back. Oh, it was very close to contact. Good thing Max Visa was all over that, but that's forced him wide on the run into the final corner. And Zhang Li very nearly got turned around there. If not for the fast reflexes of Max Visa, that could have been another contact and another position change. The biggest drama at the moment is Oscar Lee's dropped back wholesale position. He started in position 3 outright, heading into turn 1 on the restart. He's now back down the order. Zhang Li's looking at an outside, or an inside move rather, on Max Visa. That'll never happen. I'll give you the tip on that front, as it looks like Jackson Wall's gone perhaps a little deep into the first corner. That's allowed Max Visa to close up under his rear wing. This has gotten very, very interesting into the final 10 minutes of this race. What can Oscar Lee do? He's right back down the order in, well, I'm going to sort this order out again. The top 3 aren't really in position. So in position number 9, so he's dropped from position 3 back to position number 9 in the DW Evans GT entry. So effectively we see Giltrap leading 4 seconds, 5 seconds now up as this battle continues between Max Visa. I can't stop watching this one. Jackson Walls is not giving in. The newly crowned, or the newly adopted junior driver for Lamborghini Super Trofeo is taking the fight to one of the old stages of this championship. He might be a little bit rusty. He hasn't been behind the wheel in competition for a couple of seasons, but he really did show in qualifying. He has the pace behind the wheel of this Harmony Racing entry as Jackson Walls locks in right under his rear wing. And what a good job from John Quan immediately ahead of him. He's just managing to hold on to position number 2 outright. He's now 4.8 seconds back from Marco Giltrap, who's running seemingly untroubled at the front of this field. Jackson Walls, well, he's not in position 3. He's lost that again to Max Visa. So Max Visa now in position 3. Jackson Walls in position number 4. Zhang Li, well, he's lost position 2, but all side by side. And that's the 33 entry of Mark Darwin, who I think is possibly a lap down in the order. The timing monitor's not being my friend at the moment so far as just trying to highlight exactly where everybody is, but his teammate had certainly spun a couple of times prior to the pit stops. And that is the number 21 entry of Oscar Lee, under fire now from Mark Darwin. So Mark Darwin's made a recovery in all of that, despite being out of position, has come back round to the rear of the field and contact again. Zhang Li, it's not gone well from the young Chinese driver. He's just had a little bit of contact with Aniwat as they turned into turn 1. He can't get the car to stop rolling. This is not the best position to be in, and what is a relatively blind corner. Just takes himself out of the firing line as the field fires through. And for Keith Vong, who got caught up in an incident, let's take a look at the replay. Right of screen is Aniwat, and he's just been tagged by Chung Lee as he turned into the corner. And the young Chinese driver was carrying plenty of pace, and perhaps Aniwat just didn't see him as he turned in. Here's a different angle. Yeah, Aniwat's moved across to the apex of the corner, thinking, well, it's my corner, no one's going to take a dive there. And Chung Lee may well have been able to make that work. It's sideways now, Max Visa, right up behind John Quan. He's doing a brilliant job in the SQDA entry. And now Jackson Walls looks up the inside. These two drivers, I don't think we'll see too much contact, but they're being very, very aggressive. 8 minutes left in this race. There's not too many laps left. As up front, well, you can hand out the championship, was the race-winning trophy, championship-winning trophy. We're a long way from that. But certainly Marco Giltrap's done the job so far. He's 9 seconds up on this battle. This is the battle now for position number 2, and John Quan wants to hang on to it. He's doing everything he can to hold that position. These cars won't have much between them in a straight line, although the aero hole that John Quan's punching through for Max Visa is just allowing the Italian driver to try and make up a little bit of ground. There's no DRS in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. If there was, you'd see a fairly wide passing manoeuvre. As down the inside as Max Visa goes, Jackson Walls follows him through. We're not following these guys. What's happened with the entry of John Quan? Well, he's dropped back to position 4 now, so it was probably a tough ask against these two drivers in front of him, but to manage to hold them off for a couple of laps as he did was a great job by the South Korean drivers. So full points to them for such an epic effort over these last couple of laps. What is going to happen here? I think Marco Giltrap's more than comfortable. He's 8.7 seconds up on the guys in front of him. They're turning laps in the 44s at the moment, and that's not going to be enough to haul in the young Kiwi, who last time round did a 42.5. In fact, it was Jackson Walls who was quicker. He was doing a 43.8, but still that pace is well down. But they were involved in a passing manoeuvre. There is the number 84 entry, prepared by Absolute Racing for Giltrap and Lamborghini Auckland, doing such a good job. Brendan Leach, another driver who has seen laps in this championship, competing very strongly in Super Trofeo Europe. Was on the podium recently. So the New Zealanders have had a very good time, and here's an Australian trying to add his name to the list of successful drivers, but he just can't find a way past the experienced Max Visa. And you can see just where Max was positioning that white number 16 Harmony Racing entry in the middle of the corner, just to fend off any kind of overtaking opportunity or run that Jackson Walls might have. But Jackson Walls is no slouch. He's currently leading Carrera Cup Australia outright. So the young driver is very, very handy behind the wheel of a GT machine. Of course, had experience in Formula Regional Asian Championships in the past, so cut his teeth there. Now here he is, Oscar Lee, trying to mount some kind of recovery. He's back to position number 8. You can discount the number 99 entry. Now there's the Lamborghini Cup battle. That is Keith Vong on the inside of Kumar as we go deep, but Keith hasn't quite managed to pull it up. He's got a better run on the exit of the corner. Can he get him on the run down to turn 3? This is the battle for position number 2 in Lamborghini Cup, and it looks like Kumar has just charged back through. He's made that passing move just as they crossed the start-finish line and got a better run into turn 1. They are back battling for position number 14 as this battle continues for position 2. So up front, Marco Giltrap leads this race. Max Visa on screen, the car in front, is in position number 2, 9 seconds further back. Jackson Walls, position 3. John Quan, sorry, I'm just a little sidestep there because the order and the names are not quite right. And the number 63 SQDA Grit Motorsport entry from South Korea in position number 4, leading the AM category. Jackson Walls leading the Pro-Am category. Giltrap the Pro category. Wei Liang Ni, no, it's Miko Nasi in position number 5 now. So he's stormed through in the Safe House Racing entry. We haven't seen much of that. He's in position number 5. Mark Darwin, after the dramas the number 33 car had, the Iron Lynx entry early in this race, now up into position number 6. Aniwat now back to position 19. So he has really suffered. That contact and other setbacks just in passing moves have dropped the Thai driver back to position number 7 and 3rd in the AM category. Oscar Lee back in position number 8. Shunsuke Kono is in position number 9, the guest entry that won't score championship points. They're just a one-off for this weekend. The number 10, position number 10 rather, for Vincent Tai in the BC Racing 51 entry. David Rio, which is kind of like the second team, that is Gavin Huang, Vincent Tai's teammates, Johnson Huang, the father. I'm getting my tongues twisted in all of this. Gavin Huang is his son, the 16-year-old making his debut in the championship in position number 11. So they're 10th and 11th. A good result for them on debut. Henry Kay has taken over from his brother Eric in the Triple Ace Racing entry. Superchai is leading in the Lamborghini Cup. He's about 0.7 of a second up on Kumar, who is the championship points leader, the Iron Lynx number 37 entry. And we saw that battle for position with Keith Vong, who was in seconds, now back into position number 3, sharing with Dr. Ma in the number 83 Camlung Racing entry. Their positions 13, 14, 15. Position 16, Bobby Buncheron. He must have had a drama, as the number 71 looks like he's had a drama, and that is the leader of the LC Cup. Let's have a look down at turn 1. He's gone in deep, got to the apex, got on the throttle. Kumar right behind him, so he's no longer first in Lamborghini Cup. He's now third. So that was a very, very costly spin on the exit. There's a little bit of dampness in the air. One wonders whether or not there is a bit of rain about. It would tend to suggest, based on pace, in the low 143s and the high 142s for the outright teams, as this battle for position number 2 continues to go on. 2 minutes, 20 seconds left in this race. So Chung Lee in position number 17 and Heiwen Liu in the Vortex Orion Endurance entry is in position number 18. Now, that was a solid start for that team, and they have dropped back. In fact, Benjamin Rouget was running up quite handily in the top 10 in the early stages of the race. They are now shown back in position 18. And of course, Zico and Jilong Kang are out in positions 19 and 20. So now Kumar is leading comfortably in Lamborghini Cup. He's out by about 1.5 seconds over Keith Vong. As on screen, there is John Kwon, who is still holding on to position number 4. He's got a 1.7 second advantage. Well, he doesn't. Have a look on screen. There is Mikko Nassi, who's absolutely storming. And if we have a look at Mikko Nassi's last lap time, he did a 43.9 to a 44.6 for John Kwon. So John lost 0.7 of a second. I think that leads only down to about half a second. So that would be a position change for the number 63 entry, and for their debut with a new Safe House Racing entry or entity. That's a great result for Wei Liang Ni and Mikko Nassi if they can manage to move themselves into position number 5, and that would be second in Pro-Am behind Jackson Walls. And the unfortunate Oscar Lee, 144.8 last time round. You compare that to Jackson Walls at a 142.8. His pace has dropped quite a bit. The best lap for that car is a 142.1. That would have been set by his teammate Dan Wells. So a little bit of work for Oscar Lee to do. It might have just shaken him up a little bit. Not as got the experience that his teammate Dan Wells has, of course, but the combination have been doing a fair bit of driving over recent years, both in Asia and in Europe. Have been quite successful in Europe. So that's just a matter of more miles for Oscar Lee to get him more comfortable. It's Mark Darwin on screen, and what a recovery for that car. Rotated twice, was saved by the safety car, brought back to rear of field, and Mark Darwin, the Malaysian-based driver, the Malaysian driver, has absolutely stormed back through the field to be second in the AM category, behind the number 63 Grit Motorsport entry, currently driven by John Kwon. Now that's the number 7 Kaiwu Len entry, Luo rather. He's just keeping out of the way down at the chicane of Max Visa, who looks like he's opened up enough of a safety margin now on Jackson Walls to perhaps maintain that position. Now it says remaining time is 0, so in all of this the clock's wound down to 0. This should be your last couple of corners potentially for Marco Giltrap. I'd have expected to see at least one more lap. Let's see what happens when we get to the finishing line. Number 51 under investigation for a pit stop infringement. Leader on last lap. So expect to see the checkered flag. And this would be another victory for the Absolute Racing entry for Giltrap Group and Lamborghini Auckland. Chris Vanderdrift started brilliantly from pole position. Marco Giltrap's taken over and a quite comfortable second place in the end. A great storming drive from Max Visa to take the number 16 Harmony Racing entry that he shares with Sheng Wei Zhu through to position 2. And the father and son entry of Jackson Walls and Tony Walls have taken position number 3 as the checkered flag is flying. So victory to Giltrap and Vanderdrift. There is the Lamborghini Cup race leader. He still hasn't finished. He's a bit further back down the order. Kumar's in position number 13 outright, comes through the final corner. He's fairly safe. There is Keith Vong reining him in, but I don't think he's going to get there. Bobby Buncheron's trying just to make up another position at the line. He's not going to quite get there, or is he? He's going to be very close on the line, but I think Kumar's just going to get that position. They're side by side as they got to the checkered flag. I wonder what the finishing position was. There can't have been much in it. Well, it was 2 1,000ths of a second separating position. Well, in fact, Buncheron has been credited with the position. He got there by 2 1,000ths of a second. Such good drive he had off the last corner. And the Thai driver has taken position number 13. But for Kumar, no great foul there. He will take victory marginally clear of Keith Vong in Lamborghini Cup. But outright, there is your race winner for the second time this year. Better just double check that because I'm going off memory. That gets a little bit cloudy as you get older. That is the third entry rather for this year for Chris Vanderdrift and Marco Giltrap. So another outright win for the New Zealand team, and that will put them well clear in the standings for the pro category. Max Visa, of course, in the number 16 entry he shares with Shengwei Zhu, will take position number 2 and second in the pro category, third outright and first in Pro-Am after a great storming drive back through the field for Jackson Walls and his father Tony. Wei Liang Ni in the number 77 entry that he shares with Miko Nassi, who did a brilliant job in the closing stages to work his way up to fourth and second in Pro-Am. They'll be back on the podium and very happy about that on their debut with Safe House as Marco Giltrap pulls into Parc Ferme and the number 1 slot for the New Zealand team run by Absolute Racing. Position number 6, Mark Darwin, and second in AM category behind Brian Lee and John Kwan. Position number 6 outright for Mark Darwin, and 7th for Annie Watt and Prom Sombat, who will be third in the AM category. Third in Pro-Am for Dan Wells and Oscar Lee. So a slight glitch in their domination of the Pro-Am category. That'll be the first time that they will not appear on the top step of the podium in their 5th race this season. The guest entry of Shunsuke Kono and Jun Toshiro will take position number 9. The AM entry of Vincent Tai and Johnson Huang in position number 10. David Rio and Gavin Huang in position number 11. And 5th in AM category on their debut in the series. Henry Kay and Eric Kay for Triple Ace Racing in position number 12. Bobby Buncheron getting that 13th position over Kumar Prabhakaran by 2 1,000ths of a second on the line. Position 13 for Buncheron and 7th in AM category. Victory for Kumar in Lamborghini Cup over Dr. Ma and Keith Vong. Pro-Am 4th overall for Chung Lee and Jonathan Chikotto after a storming drive for Chikotto off the line. Looking very racy at the start and at the start of the restart prior to the intervention. Where are we in the list? Superchai in position number 17 after that spin. Hits 1, which we saw for the 33 entry a couple of times. The pro entry of Alwen Liu and the number 7 entry for Vortex Orion. She shares with Benjamin Rouge. Force. Yeah, the O brothers and the HZO Fortis Racing Team entry, and Jillian Kang in the number 18 entry that he shares with Ray Yu, had that had an incident between turns 3 and 4 on lap 10, pulled out the safety car a bit of time during that intervention. They are classified non-finishes, and let's hope both are repaired before Two here at 5 a.m. local time here. Traffic to the field. He's part of the furniture, you could see, in Lamborghini Super Trofeo champion and driver coach, very popular character. He is definitely doing a good job, and that drive through Dubberton was great. There are your, they should be champions in some level. Brian Lee and John Horn. What a brilliant drive for the South Korean duo. Of course, John Horn's considered an American, American base, but he's very So recapping after what was a very entertaining race, unfortunately we had a safety car intervention which cost us a number of valuable laps, but gee, we saw some great racing over the closing stages of the race. We'll go through to the podiums very, very soon. Of course, we have the outright podium, we have the Pro-Am podium, the Am podium and Lamborghini Cup. And for the first time, we will be presenting the award for the Hankook fastest lap. And the fastest lap of this race We just run down the order again. May well have been the outright victor of this race. Best lap of 1:41.843, and that was set by Chris van der Dreft in the early stages of this race. So we will see, no doubt, that podium being presented as we go through the 4 podiums for the championship contenders. Now, coming into this round outright in the pro category, Marco Giltrap and Chris van der Dreft, who have just taken their 3rd race win of the year from the 5 races, were leading on 58 points. Shengwei Zhu on 31 points. Jonathan Cecotto on 25. Of course, he only had the 1 race event on his own as a pro entry. Dean Canto and Sam Brabham, an Australian team that only competed in the 2nd round of the championship at the Bend. Xiangtong Liang and Wan Chen, or David Chen rather, in position number 6. So really the battle there will be a tough one for anybody who wants to try and take on the reigning pro class champion from 2019, and that of course is Chris van der Dreft. If we go to the Pro-Am category, Oscar Lee and Dan Wells have had won to this point, all 4 rounds in that class, been on the top step of the podium. This time round they will be classified provisionally, of course. We need to explain that it is a provisional result, on their debut with their new look DW Evans GT racing team with position number 3, but they will continue to lead this championship. 63 points to them coming into this round. Of course, they score points based on qualifying position as well. So 63 for them. Tony Walls and Jackson Walls, they will be credited with the victory in the Pro-Am category for this round. They were on 47 points, so there'll be a minor change in the outright difference in points in that category, but not so much in the order, as Oscar Lee and Dan Wells will continue to lead in Pro-Am class going into the next race tomorrow, for which they had qualified quite strongly. Again, although Oscar was a little bit further back in the order he wanted to be in, but overall they are still a very strong combination to be on the podium and fighting for the top step of the Pro-Am category tomorrow. The AM class, well, that's been a big one. Aniwat and Promsombat have been leading that class. They've been very strong. They've had 1 victory and a pair of 2nd place finishes in the AM category. They were leading the category on 49 points. Brian Lee and John Kwan, who have just claimed another victory in the AM category. They've won twice so far, but suffered a DNF, which has dropped them back down the order. So they're going to make up some wholesale ground. And I would tend to suggest with that 3rd place finish of Aniwat and Promsombat, they may well move themselves. Well, they'll certainly be within fighting distance, but very close to being the championship points leader in the AM category. For Henry Kay and Eric Kay, not such a great weekend. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th in the AM category for them. Bobby Buncheron in the AM category now. He had a strong finish, but he is back in position number 7 for the AM category this weekend. Further back than we would have expected. We saw him qualify position 7 and run in the top 7 for the early stages of this race, but unfortunately was unable to move much further forward. Mark Darwin and Lin Chen Lo, who suffered those 2 spins in the early stanza of this race, back in position number 5. And we go across to Lamborghini Cup. Kumar Prabhakaran, who, he wound up inheriting another victory due to that spin by Super Chai late in the race, and he will take another victory. So that is his 3rd victory in the Lamborghini Cup for this year so far out of 5 races. So he will extend his championship points lead. Currently he's 55 to Super Chai's 43. And Dr. Ma and Keith Vong, who will have finished 2nd in this race, will gain on their disadvantage to the championship points leaders. They were 32 points to the 43 and 55 ahead of them. And in the teams races, well, Absolute Racing, again, not surprisingly, tick off another victory. And for those of you that know much about motorsport in the Asian region, and certainly GT class racing, they are arguably the most successful and experienced team in the region. So to have them sharing in some more spoils is not a great surprise. So,
ladies and gentlemen,
hopefully you are getting this vision of the
Lamborghini Super Trophy Asia Round 3
the podium,
Fuji Speedway.
But certainly
First,
there
let's
will
invite
be
the overall top
some
3
more
winners onto the podium.
more action across the weekend
winner
from
of the
Fuji
race,
International
car number
Speedway.
84
Make sure
from
that you
Absolute
join
Racing.
us
He's
tomorrow at
Marco
11:35
Giltrap,
a.m. Tokyo time
Chris van der
for
Dreft.
race number 6 of for the season. Marco Giltrap and reigning Pro Class champion Chris van der Drift, a
Second
winner
place,
here
car number
before,
16 from Harmony Racing,
make their way
Xu
to the
Shenghui
podium.
and Max
Hancock
Weather.
first, caps on. The Lamborghini Auckland
Third
Giltrap
place, car
Group
number 11
team.
Objective Racing, Tony Walls, Jackson
Max
Walls.
Visa, who did such a great job in the closing stages of that race.
And now,
Of course,
it's my
sharing
honor
the
to
Harmony
invite
Racing
Mr.
entry.
Maurizio Reggiani,
Shenghui
Vice
Zhu.
President of Motorsports,
And
Automobili Lamborghini.
there, of
Present the
course,
trophy to
is
top
Jackson Walls and Tony Walls. So you'd have to suggest that for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Junior program, they'd be fairly happy with that, a 1, 2, 3 in their first major event. So there's a fair level of success for those guys. Max Visa very happy to be back behind the wheel. Italian driver, former champion outright in the category. Jackson Walls left of screen, his father Tony right of screen. They'll be very happy to be back on the podium, and this young man has been very, very impressive. He was quite competitive in his Junior Open Wheel days, but certainly seems to have stepped up a whole other level behind the wheel of a GT car. And yes, it's not a GT3 category car, but certainly there are a lot of elements of that. And there is the very first Hankook fastest lap trophy going to the New Zealander, Chris van der Drift. He's just trying to work out where he's going to put that on his mantle, because it's probably full of trophies. Some would say he's got more trophies in the trophy shop. It's quite likely that's true. He's been very successful in this part of the world, the New Zealander. As we get ready for photographs, and then the, well, likely champagne spraying, which is always a thrill and looks great for media. And of course, you can keep up to date with Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia with the Squadra Corsa social media platforms. And
Thank you, Mr.
look out for Squadra
and
Corsa
Mr. Tashiu.
and Lamborghini
And now
Motorsport
it is your
online.
champagne time for the
Updates
drivers.
across all the various platforms across the weekend. As the celebrations go on, I'm not sure Marco Giltrap's all that impressed, but he's going to have to get used to it, because I see a fair bit of this in the young man's future. Certainly Chris van der Drift's an old hand, so he tends to be the first one drowning people, so hopefully he doesn't get drowned himself. And that is your outright podium. So the number 84 Absolute Racing entry of Marco Giltrap and Chris van der Drift. Max Visa in the number 16 Harmony Racing entry he shares with Shenghui Zhu, and of course the father and son team, the Pro-Am entry of Jackson and Tony Walls for Objective Racing in position number 3. You go through to the Pro-Am category. You should see the Walls back
And
for
now we are
another
having the podium ceremony for
trophy
race
haul
1 of 2023
for the
Lamborghini
two Australians.
Super Trophy Asia Round 3 at Fuji Speedway.
I expect that
Pro
they will be
Am
joined
class.
by Railiang Ni and
Let's
Miko
invite
Nasi
our winners onto the
on their
podium.
debut with the new Safe House
First place.
operation.
Let's welcome again
And
car number
Scully
11
and Dan
from
Wells back on the
Objective
podium,
Racing,
but for the
Tony
Hong
Walls,
Kong-based team,
Jackson Walls.
the new look DW Evans GT operation. Unfortunately
Second
for them,
place from Safe House, car number
they
77,
will not be on the top
Li
step
Weiliang
for the 5th
and
race. They
Miko.
haven't been able to make it a Max Verstappen-esque clean sweep, but they are back on the podium.
And your third place, car number
Railiang Ni
21
did a
from
great
DW
job during the
Evans
opening
GT.
stanza, and Miko
Oscar
Nasi
Lee,
looks a little tired. I'm not
Dan
surprised. He did a
Wells.
brilliant job storming through the field to grab position number 4 in the closing stages of the race. And Oscar Lee and Dan Wells probably a little disappointed not to be standing up there with the Walls, but you can't have it every time. Unfortunately, that restart, Oscar was well in position 3, but he knew too that he had both Jackson Walls and Max Visa storming through from behind him, and there was a real bottleneck down at the chicane with about 10 minutes to go, and unfortunately for Oscar, he was just wrong-footed in the wrong part of the circuit, and really he didn't have much choice. There wasn't anywhere for him to go. The field was all bunched up, and for the young Hong Kong-based driver, he really didn't have much chance to recover, and then worked his way back through. He dropped back as far as about 10th, but was ultimately classified in position 8 outright, and he will be 3rd alongside his teammate Dan Wells for the Pro-Am category. So again, if we run quickly through the order, Marco Giltrap and Chris Vanderdrift take their third win of the year, an outright victory in the number 84 Absolute Racing entry. Max Visa
And now we are ready for Pro-Am class.
Xingwei Zhu will take position 2 for Harmony Racing, the second of the Pro class entries. Jackson Walls and Tony Walls for Objective Racing in position 3. Weirlang Ni and Miko Nassi on screen going nuts in the Safe House number 77 entry. New car for them this weekend in position number 4 and second in Pro-Am. Brian Lee and John Kwon will take victory in the number 63 SQDA Grit Motorsport entry. We'll see them shortly. In position number 5 and first in the AM category, Mark Darwin in the number 33 entry that he shares with Lin Chen Lo will be second in AM category, and Aniwat and Prom Sombat the star performance by Absolute, the number 19 entry rather, the Thai entry, will take third in AM category and seventh outright. Oscar Lee and Dan Wells we just saw in position number 8 outright and third in Pro-Am. The guest entry of Shunsuke Kono and Jun Tashiro will take position number 9. Vincent Tai and Johnson Wang provisionally are in position number 10. There is a question mark over a pit stop infringement, and here's a popular victory. These guys are just too much fun. They love the sport. They've got some great support, and we're not even in South Korea. What's it going to be like if they manage to get on the podium there? And there's every chance they could be on the outright podium. John Kwon in the closing stages of this race held out 2 very fast and experienced campaigners in Jackson Walls and Max Visa. Just wasn't able to hold them out too much longer, and I think in probably doing all of that, that opened the door for Miko Nassi. There is Mark Darwin and his teammate, of course, in the number 33 Iron Lynx entry, Lin Chen Lo. And third overall, probably a little bit of a surprise, they're third this weekend because they were really strong early, Aniwat and Prom Sombat, the start performance by Absolute Racing entry. That is your AM podium. And we got down to position number 10. So David Rio and Johnson Huang's son Gavin, he's 16-year-old, making a transition across from go-karts, finishes in position number 11 and 5th outright in the AM category. Could be 4th depending on what happens to the father's team, to Johnson Huang, and the outcome of that infringement. Henry Kay and Eric Kay, position number 6 in the AM category and 12th outright. Bobby Buncheron in position number 7 in the AM category and 13th outright. Kumar takes victory in Lamborghini Cup. We'll see him shortly. Dr. Ma and Keith Vong in position number 2 in Lamborghini Cup and 15th outright. In position number 16 and 4th in Pro-Am is the winner of the effectively the man who dominated in Australia, Jonathan Chicotto, driving with Chiang Li in the TRT Racing entry, the number 10 entry. Third in Lamborghini Cup and 17th outright Superchai for Siam Gas Course. Pro-Am 5th place finisher, the number 7 entry, the Vortex Orion Endurance for Hao Wen Yu and Benjamin Rouget. They are position number 18 outright. And the non-finishers, of course, Zeke and Harry O in the HZO Fortis Racing Team entry, and the number 18 entry from TRT of Yulong Kang and Ray Liu unfortunately had that incident prior to the pit stops. Brought out the safety car for their recovery with an incident down between turn 3 and 4. We will update you on social media as to when and how those cars are repaired for tomorrow's race. Race 6 of the season, that will bring us to the halfway point of the 2023 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Championship. Race 2 tomorrow, 11:35 a.m. And that, of course, is Tokyo time as we head into the Lamborghini Cup podium. And after that, we will be off air, and we look forward to seeing you prior to our start tomorrow. You catch up with all the action, search Squadra Corsa on the various social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, of course. You're watching this potentially on YouTube. We go to Injae Speedium in South Korea on the 18th to the 20th of August for round 4 of the season. Round 5 at Shanghai in China on the 8th to 10th of September. And Vallelunga in Italy for the traditional end-of-year world final for the final round of the 3 regional championships, North America, Europe, and, of course, Asia on the 16th to the 17th of November. There is Dr. Ma and Keith Vong back on the podium. They'll be very happy about that. Qualified 4th in class. Keith Vong actually put the car
And now
on
it's my
pole
honor
in the
to
second
invite
qualifying
Mr.
session, so
Masahiro
they will start from
Moritani,
further forward
Fuji
in the
Speedway
field.
Chef
That
Officer,
is tomorrow, of
British
course.
Trophy
This
tournament
is today. And there is Superchai. He'll be very disappointed that he had that spin late in the race. But, well, for Kumar, I think that's his third win of the year in Lamborghini Cup. It certainly is a victory in both Sepang, Malaysia, and, of course, in Australia. Keith Wong, based in South Australia. So that is basically his home race now. And Superchai, who himself has, I thought he had 2 victories. He does have 2 victories. He also took a victory apiece in Australia. And for Dr. Ma and Keith Wong, this will be their third second place finish as we have the photographs. So again, thank you for joining us. That has been race number 1 of round 3 of the 2023 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Series. We'll see you tomorrow at 11:35 rather, local time for race 6 of the season.
Lamborghini Cup, jumping time. And ladies and gentlemen, we are inviting all the winning drivers and friends. Let's come back to podium for the big group photo for Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia Round 3 at Fuji Speedway.